This CEDIA 2018 coverage is brought to you by AV Science. Check out their site through the links below. And also stay tuned for an upcoming home theater podcast called AVS Live. What's up, YouTube? How are you doing? Chana D back with another CEDIA 2018 video. As you can see, we are not on the floor. No, we are in a super special place here. And sitting next to me is the owner of Parasound, Richard Schram. And Richard, what does Parasound have coming out that's new? We'd like to know.
Oh, we're really excited about some models that have been in development for a while, and some of which, one of which over here, which you'll see, was introduced in December, but it is arguably the world's finest phono stage value at $14.95, and we believe it to be the best-selling phono stage on the planet right now. Designed by John Curl, who's the master of phono stage design, who's consulted to us since 1989. And it gives us a real edge, and it gives our owners a real thrill to listen to music and vinyl through that preamp. Now below it is a newer product that's been out for several months. This is a JC5. It's our second John Curl designed amplifier, the first being the JC1 monoblocks that we introduced in 2003, which have continued in production unchanged and have been stereophile Class A recommended component twice a year, every year for 15 years. There's no other product in the audio business that's ever had that kind of honor. So the JC5 is a result of people, probably some of you even, asking us, could we build a stereo amplifier that would be as good as the JC1 mono amps? And the answer to that was not obvious. No, it wasn't obvious. The first year in development of this product was persuading John Curl to even try, and we succeeded in that. And then it took a lot of effort to distill down two JC1s in 4U chassis into a stereo product that was comparable. So this is a JC5, retails for $59.95 in the United States. Prices vary in 55 other countries that we sell in. It's 400 watts per channel, RMS, at 8 ohms. And it has, oh gosh, enormous power supply. It's got independent power supplies for the input stage. I'll talk about that for just a second. Input stage voltages are usually shared with the output stage. Mm-hmm. And if an amplifier is under load and the voltage sags, and it sags at the input stage will distort, and by the time it goes through the output stage, it's really nasty. So we run the input stage independently 10 volts higher than the output stage so that it will never sag and it will never be a cause of distortion. And this is pretty unusual. It's counterintuitive, thinking that an input stage would need more voltage, but it's actually proven to be of great value. Each channel has its own power supply for the input stage. The power transformer is enormous. Some of the best work we do is with copper, aluminum, and steel, and copper and steel have to do with the transformer largely, aluminum for the massive heat sinks we have to dissipate the current required to get a lot of Class A operation. And I'm not going to bore you with the details other than to say that these amps sound spectacular at low levels. And sometimes people talk about, I want to turn my hi-fi up because that's the way it sounds good. But we don't all do that, and most of us that are married can't do that, at least not for very long. Parenthetically, California is a community property state, so I got to be respectful too. So how an amplifier performs at low levels is actually harder to achieve than it is at higher levels. Things are masked. And without getting really technical, Class A is the way an output stage is developed, is a technology that prevents the kind of distortion that is really annoying, that you don't hear as distortion. When we say the word distortion, we think of fuzziness or blurriness or something like that. But the kind of distortion that is caused when an amplifier is not operating optimally is odd order, higher harmonic distortions fifths, sevenths, ninths, with don't have any correlation to music whatsoever. And what they cause is listening fatigue. You don't hear it, but the result is you just don't want to listen to your music anymore. You get up and turn the amp off.
It's something you feel. You're like,
you just feel it, and it's just something that's not right with it. And when an amplifier is doing its job properly at low levels, you can sit there and enjoy your music all day long, and that's the way it should be. But it's more expensive to build a product that way, and what goes into doing that, I think we do better than most other companies, and certainly the press seems to agree with me.
You know, I have a Halo 5. Halo Integrated 5, and that thing's awesome. So I actually listen at very loud levels, and I can listen for like 3-4 hours, you know, without any fatigue at all. So, you know.
Well, we're very proud of that. The amplifier in the Halo Integrated amps, the original and now the new Halo
6,
Hint 6 we call it, because the Halo Integrated immediately became nicknamed Hint. The market just said, well, that's what we're going to call it. So the Hint 6 was, we developed that model number because it's based on a new P6 preamp with the ESS Saber DAC and full DSD capabilities and something that's really...
So what you're saying is the P6 and the Hint 6 have the exact same...
identical.
So as opposed to the P5, which has the different DAC and not the ESS Saber, is the Halo 5.
The P6, I think, is the preamp that people really wanted all along, and we wanted to put more into it. But the one thing we didn't change was the John Curl design power amp section, 160 watts per channel, 8 ohms, 240 watts at 4, and it has all of the characteristics that make it it's just every bit as good as separates, and I think a one of a kind among integrated amplifiers. Nobody's been able to come close to the product, and certainly I believe it's with good reason that it's one of the, if not the most popular integrated amp, premium amplifier. Not talking about a Japanese $700, integrated. Among the really great integrateds, it's very, very well respected and received. So we upped the game with the new Hint, with some substantial improvements. We have a new USB receiver so that it's truly plug and play with Windows 10 or Mac. No drivers to install, no drivers to reinstall every time Windows 10 does an automatic update. And this isn't working right, so you've got to scramble with that. And that's a thing of the past now. And then we've changed, the biggest changes in the volume control circuit. The original Halo Integrated used a motorized Alps potentiometer, one of the best that you could get, and we were looking to have something that would last longer and be more precise. So the volume control in the new Halo Integrated Hint 6 is actually a resistor ladder array that's electronically switched, which means there are no moving parts, but it's not a digital control. If you've ever seen a resistor ladder, it's a rotary switch with a gazillion resistors around it. Well, this is comparable to that, except electronically switched. So channel tracking left to right at any volume is identical. The distortion is lower. The signal to noise is actually better than a potentiometer where you've got contacts on a substrate that could potentially become corroded over time. But the electronically controlled volume control is really slick, and it offers several opportunities. First of all, we can give an exact digital readout. I don't know if the camera can see that, but you can fill that in later. 0 to 99. But it also affords the opportunity for two special features, one of which is a default turn-on volume, so you can adjust it with the remote control to whatever volume you want it to turn on every time you want to listen to it.
Right.
And the other is a favorite volume level, and again, there's a button on the remote control. So that's your usual favorite listening level. So rather than having to dial it in, you just press a button and you've got what you want, and it's very, very convenient. And so this makes a material difference in the sound, and we made some other refinements. We increased the gain and transparency in the phono stage to be more compatible with really low output MC cartridges. and some refinements in the overall circuitry. And it's
Did you keep the theater bypass?
we did.
By far my favorite feature of that, because I actually have my Halo behind my TV in a rack, so I can't even see it. So I just have it power on and go to bypass.
So you want to watch TV instead of looking at the Halo amplifier?
Well,
yeah, it tells me
my,
a lot about you.
my wife doesn't want it in the middle of the room, but
I didn't know you were married to my wife. So I wish somebody had told me.
Oh man, who knew? Who knew?
knew?
But by far, that's one of my favorites, because then I can get that power, even with movies, and instead of just for my records and stuff.
What surprises me is the feature set that we put on to make the Halo integrated Hint 6 P6 compatible with somebody. Look, most people can't have a separate room for their home theater and a separate room for their stereo system.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work that way.
Like me.
Yeah, me too. So we put on some features in these that would make them particularly of value in use, which is crossovers. So we've got an adjustable high-pass crossover, adjustable low-pass crossover. They're switchable. Now the purpose of this is if you've got a surround system, you've got bass management, which is done in the setup menu, digital display. So you select your sub crossover and all this kind of thing. But when you have most products that have a bypass input, when you switch to your 2-channel, now you suddenly don't have a sub anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Because the sub was a product coming out of the surround processor, and now your speakers are running full range, and they may not be optimal full range, which is why you had a subwoofer in the first place for the system. Yeah. So when you're using your front L&R speakers and a sub for stereo, when you're listening to LPs or other 2-channel sources, you want to preserve that experience that you get with the surround processor. So what we do with all of our preamps is we create a sub-channel out of the 2-channel. We mix them and filter them with a variable crossover. So you're emulating in analog what you are in digital in the surround processor. And then with the high frequencies, it's exactly the same thing. If you've got your speaker set to small, mm-hmm. and you're adjusting whatever the frequency is, 60, 70, 80 hertz, whatever it might be, in most units, it's going to operate full range, and the tonal balance is all off. So in our products, we offer high pass that's adjustable, so you can emulate analog what you do in digital. So when you switch from your surround to stereo music, the balance in the system is exactly the same and seamless. And it's actually, I don't understand why other companies don't do it. To us, other companies don't do it. To us, it was really obvious. Maybe that's because we're fortunate enough to have valuable input from you, our viewers and owners of our equipment, and we listen very closely to that. And since most of you don't have a trust fund, we really we want to provide the best value. And aside from making them sound and last for a long time, we want to make them as versatile as possible, and that saves money for people in the long run. And that's the way we like to do it. By the way, I mentioned a second ago about lasting for a long time. When I'm at shows and our customers come up, some of my favorite moments are when people thank me for the quality of the amplifier the Parasound amplifier that they bought in 1985, 1986, which is still doing great. So people say, well, how long do your amplifiers last? And I say, I actually have no idea, because so many of them are still on the road.
Yeah, right.
And that's great. It makes me as happy to hear from a customer who's got an amp of ours that's 30 years old. As somebody who just bought a product that's new, it's very, very gratifying, and it makes me feel good for the effort we put into our products.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. Let's talk about this the Model 2350.
Yeah. Okay. So over here is a fairly ordinary-looking 2-rack space stereo amplifier, but it's in disguise It's an ultra high-end amplifier with some very unique features on the back, meaning a sub-crossover on it, opportunity to have mono as well as bridged, and those aren't the same thing, by the way. Inside are premium ice power Class D modules with additional heat sinking with our own front end, discrete front end on it. And we didn't design this amplifier to be the ultimate in sound quality. This was intended for home integration, usually for a system that's maybe, this is the stereo part of a whole house. But what ended up happening with this is we made the front end so good, the amp will take on a lot of amps, even some of our own that are far more expensive than its rather moderate price and kind of modest appearance. But this amplifier is called a Zonemaster 2350. The 350 is the reason because it's 350 watts a channel at 8 ohms, and it's 600 watts a channel at 4 ohms, so it's quite potent. Yeah, the real deal. And it's pretty heavy for a Class D amplifier. There's another brand that uses the same modules that has monoblocks that they sell for $29.95, which is twice the price of this unit. And the performance differences, I would challenge anybody to hear the difference. But again, it's the value proposition that we go for. But if you ever have an opportunity to listen to one of these, in fact, well, before that, go to our website, parasound.com, easy enough to find. There are some independent listener evaluations of this with people using speakers north of $30,000 a pair, some big Sonus Fabers. And the responses from these people who listen to the amp were just stunned. I mean, it's like you would never expect it. So if you want the surprise of your life and get the most bang for your buck, this would be an amp that you might seriously consider.
Yeah, and clearly have for a long time, right?
As far as I know, it might be, for a lot of people, it's probably the last amp. Any of our products will be the last amp they'll ever have to buy. And I don't care how young you are.
That's really cool. All right, well, thank you so much for your time, Richard.
This is a nice opportunity. Thank you very much.
This is great. I'm super stoked.
Why don't you tell these people about what you are as a musician, man?
These guys know. They most of them follow my music channel also. So I have multiple channels. But anyway, let's get back to it. I guess that's going to wrap up CEDIA 2018 for me. I'll have more videos coming up throughout the weekend. All right, you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.